tackle leaders, 3 linebackers going, but how much has Amani and them embraced maybe the vocal aspect? Because you also lose a lot of vocal leadership with the 3 guys.
I think you'll give me a straight answer. I think the question is about the tackles.
So how tough is it to replace vocal leaders like Josie Jewell and all that, and for Amani Jones and company to kind of step into that?
It's kind of interesting, I think you look at Josie, he was more, he'd be vocal at times, but his vocal was really the way he played, and his toughness and desire to get to the ball, and I think Amani has that. He just has a little bit more different personality, how to bring them together, and I think everybody's different, everybody has a different way of doing things, and I just like his energy, and, his desire to go out there and be the best that he can be.
How excited have you been?
So, you like each guy has his own strengths. The guys that we know the most about right now are certainly Ivory and Torin. Ivory's done a nice job. He's an explosive guy. He's bigger than you think. He runs bigger than you think. Does a nice job between the tackles, does a nice job in space, and is probably our fastest back in the open field. Makai has just joined us. We don't know as much about him, right? But what we've seen we like. He's not a tall guy, but he's a big guy. And he runs with very good balance, and he's got some power behind everything he does. He manages to use all of his size as a runner. But there's some uncertainty there. We haven't seen him do it in a game. Torin's the guy probably we know the most about because he's been here 2 years. And the one thing about Torin is he's a good, solid back. He may not be spectacular in any regard, but he's very solid, and he's probably the most trustworthy guy on the team. You want to talk about a great kid and a great person? Torin Young is that. What we're looking for in our program, 12 months a year, Torin Young is that. And you can't discount that as a player. So he just reminds me of one of those guys that he may not be spectacular in any regard, but those guys have done pretty well here. A guy like LaShawn Daniels, who was extremely productive.
You went to look at the Patriots this year. Is there, first of all, what was your biggest, you've been there obviously, but what was your biggest takeaway from this particular visit?
Yeah, I think my biggest takeaway was that although many things have changed, nothing has changed, right? The core things have stayed the same there. And the message that was delivered every day there was identical to the message I remember being delivered. And I think that's a testament to why they are so consistent. They don't change anything. And that doesn't mean they don't evolve or they don't adapt, but they're not going to change fundamentally who they are, and they're not going to do it for any reason. So that was pretty striking. And then just a chance to be around some of the greatest teachers in the game is really encouraging to me. To be around Coach Belichick, to sit in a meeting again and listen to him teach, to listen to Dante Scarnecchia teach. There's guys in that program, guys like Brian Flores, who's going to do a tremendous job as a defensive coordinator. I remember when we were sharing an office breaking down tape, to sit in the back of a meeting room and listen to him run a defensive meeting was not only impressive, but it almost made me a little bit sentimental, because I remember when we weren't running any meetings. But he's going to do a tremendous job. Just to be around those guys, the detail and the mastery of the fundamental parts of football, to hear those taught, not just the physical aspect, but also the game, right? There's no team in pro football that understands the game of football, the situations that can come up within a game, the rules. Nobody understands that better than the New England Patriots, and that's not just the coaching staff, that's the players. So to be around guys at that caliber is just a lot of fun. And then to see some old faces, familiar faces, was pretty neat too.
How exciting is it to
with our young guys right now is real difficult because of how we're built with our install. When we get out of this thing in a few more days and we start scaling back and start fine-tuning some stuff, that's when you'll figure out exactly how much they digested and how consistent they can be, in their play.
Coach, I'm sorry, go ahead. A guy like Amani, who was on special teams and killing guys for years, just waiting for this chance. What has it been like watching him now that he feels like he has that chance?
You still see some days where it looks like he's running down on kickoff, and you wish he saw this guy go there, that guy there. I mean, he's a battle ram in some ways. He's not necessarily a bull in a china shop.
Right.
We progressed beyond that. But there's still some things that we've got to work on, and that's why you do what you do. I mean, that's why I do what I do, is because you see the progression, from day to day, and but you know, it's exciting that you're dealing with somebody that, you know, is wired like him, built like him. You know, what you guys have seen on kickoff is, you know, is really who he is. You know, and you don't ever want to change that. You just got to try to modify it in some cases based on, you know, what he's seeing.
Right.
Coach Ferentz mentioned Nick is a guy that can play inside or outside. Is that something you've already looked at in camp, and is that partially to give Barrington Wade a bigger look outside, or what's process?
You know, I'd say this about Barrington to start with. Barrington's somebody that, you know, caught our eye in the spring. It seemed like he had turned the corner, you know, which happens to a lot of our kids at that, you know, at that stage in their career. And it has allowed us a little bit of flexibility with Nick. We have worked him, you know, at multiple positions. I think he could potentially play all three. But right now, I mean, it's, you know, he's spending the majority of the time where his brother did at the Leo position. And then we're taking reps here and there to move him inside, you know, Will linebacker, possibly Mike linebacker. You know, part of that's twofold. I mean, you want to do it to provide yourself with some flexibility. The other reason you want to do it is you want to see how he reacts to the guy that he's standing next to and how that guy reacts to him. I mean, there's some give and take, and there's a lot of having to, you know, play off of each other when you're playing those interior two backers. So, you know, we're going to continue to look at it, and, you know, the one thing that we're working towards, which, you know, certainly is not, you know, at the front end right now, is, you know, where are we going to be 2.5 weeks from now when we really have to, you know, solidify some of this stuff. The beauty of it right now is these guys have been around, whether it be Nick, whether it be Barrington, whether it be Christian Welch, whether it be Jack Hockaday, whether it be Amani Jones. They've been around long enough that, you know, they do have their foot out ahead of everybody else, so you are providing some flexibility. But, you know, right now it's just, you know, keep moving them around a little bit.
You know, even the guys that over the years that have turned into household names, you know, at some point they were, a lot of them, at the position where this group is now, and you know, develop those leadership qualities. You know, whether it's in the meeting rooms or out on the practice field, what does that look like? You know, when a guy is kind of developing into the figurehead of a group, and you know, getting those leadership qualities that you always look for.
I think it. You know, I'll go back to a question I answered earlier where, you know, really trust is the biggest thing. You know, with these linebackers, there's so much that is required of them from a communication standpoint. I mean, we're adjusting guys' alignment by a foot to the right, a foot to the left, and it's all based on how they see things. And that trust, when it comes to leadership, is so important. And, you know, I think the more that they can develop the trust amongst their teammates, and as I said earlier, they've got a very experienced defensive line. You know, when you start lining some of those guys up there, I mean, those guys can fall out of bed and do some of the stuff that we do defensively. And now you've got some younger guys behind them that, you know, are trying to feed them with information, and it needs to be the right information in order for that trust to be gained. And then once that's done, talking about a figurehead, talking about somebody that sticks out ahead of everybody else, to me, once that trust is built, and once guys start making plays, to me, that's when guys start sticking out. But, you know, I think it's a wait and see. I think it's something that just kind of happens organically. It's not something where you want to push somebody out of front and say, okay, this guy's going to lead our team. Right. You know, we've got enough leaders, you know, on our team with guys that have played multiple snaps that I'd be crazy to say we're going to push this linebacker out in front of everybody and say, hey, follow his lead. You know, let's follow the guys that, you know, that have done this before, and let's try to catch up to them as a linebacker unit individually, you know, and collectively, and see where it goes.
And reps and who's getting exposed to what, but our job as a group is to grow as a group, and then individually their job is to exceed expectations. So in Tyrone's case, you know, obviously with him coming in being, you know, fresh out of high school, you know, he's one of those guys. He's a football lover. He's a football junkie, and you know, he soaks it up. He was texting me, calling me, and you know, middle of summer, I'm trying to be on vacation, and he's texting me, calling me, hey coach, when you come meet with me, hey, I got this down. Can we move on to the next thing? So that's what you want. That's what you love about a kid like Tyrone. So it's too early to tell exactly when or, you know, where he fits, you know, in the equation. Is he a factor? I would say he's definitely a competitor to be a factor in it, but we'll just see how it pans out.
And Amir Smith-Marset last year flashed some incredible physical signs, but then also had some inconsistencies, whether it was drops or head or, you know,
no question,
fumbles. Has he gotten to the point where he's more consistent, and what can he do if he gets the consistency up?
Well, the sky's the limit for that young man if he gets the consistency up. You know, it all starts with your daily preparation, and that's, you know, we have our individual meetings and, you know, things that we focus on to get better at as individuals, and that's one of the things Amir and I talk about on a daily basis is just your daily preparation. Not just seeing the big picture of, I want to score this touchdown or I want to win this game. It's more about, you know, taking notes in meetings. Right? What can I get better at? Take something off the film, learn from it, correct it, and move on. Just that daily preparation, whether it's in a team meeting, position meeting, then out on the field working on individual drills and then taking it to the 7-on-7s and the team sessions and all that stuff. So it's a process. And with Amir, you know, you hit it on the head. His ability is so above the average you know, college football player that sometimes in the past, I'm sure in high school, he got away with, you know, skipping corners and not detailing the process. Obviously at this level, everybody's good. So we have to focus on our detail and focus on our process. So that's been the message with Amir, and he has responded very well. So hopefully it pays off dividends, you know, come September.
He made great catches last year, but some of the easier catches and how is that something you've seen improvement on?
Absolutely. You know, he's done a great job of just going back, first of all, and learning from mistakes. You know, it's one thing to make mistakes. We were all young once, and I sure enough, still make mistakes. But the thing that I tell all of our guys is, okay, you're going to make them, no question. First thing I want to see you play full speed when you're making a mistake. Secondly, I want to see when we get in the meeting room, you pay attention to detail to take that mistake off the film. So next time we go out and perform that same play or that same assignment, you don't make the same mistake twice. That's what I want to see as a coach. That's what we all want to see as a coaching staff. And that's what we're seeing out of all of our guys, especially a guy like Smith Marset, which, you know, obviously he had some mistakes, but he also made some good plays for us. So big things ahead for him as well.
How does maybe having the tight ends being so noticeable in this offense, do you welcome that the receivers are kind of under the radar as a position group, or would you like there to be a little more focus on them? I guess, how do you balance that as a coach?
You balance, you coach them all. You coach them all to be the best we can be. And right now, we're graced with, you know, some very talented tight ends. You know, so that, in my opinion, it takes the pressure off of us. What you don't want, and I've been a part of some programs with some teams where, you know, you're really talented in one area, but you don't have as much talent in another area, so you're lacking, and you're trying to make up for it. You know, the thing about it, as I see it, from my point of view, we're talented in a lot of areas, basically across the board, offensively especially. We have guys that can make plays across the board. So, you know, the more the merrier, the way I see it. You don't want pressure on one position, whether it's QB, running back, tight end, or receiver. The more potential we have to make plays, hopefully that potential turns into production.
People started to notice that about him as a football player. And so once we went over there to evaluate him and get a chance to sit down and talk with him a little bit, and then kind of, you know, pick his brain a little bit and see how well, you know, football intelligence he is. And see him move around throughout practice, you know, and you talk to him over the phone. He's a fine young man. So you appreciate all about his character and his work ethic, and coaches spoke very highly of him. So I think that's what's drawing us more closer to him, and he's been a great fit so far.
You know, your other two running backs were kind of 1A and 1B during the spring. One's a big power back, one's a quicker, smaller back. Does he kind of fit in the middle in style?
He is. I mean, he's fitting right in with those guys, and I think they've embraced him as a brother and just a part of the group. Torn and Ivory get with him and make sure that he's on board with everything that we're doing, since they've been here longer than him. So I think it's just been a natural fit, and he's fitting right in with those guys. So yes.
He seems to be, you know, have a good quickness and physical acceleration and balance and everything. So he's kind of got everything you're looking for. Is it blitz pickup in those types of areas that are right now he's got to really catch up on?
You know, I think that's with everybody, you know, and there's a lot of moving parts. So it's all about just disciplining your eyes. But he's been very complete when it comes to running the ball, catching the football, and actually just learning exactly where protections are coming from, where his blitzes are coming from. So he's been fine. So we look for him to have, you know, some more improvement throughout camp and kind of slow everything down for him, because, you know, him coming in being new, everything's fast. You know, those guys had a chance. They were a spring ahead of him, you know, a couple years ahead of him. So now he's kind of catching up, but he surely is doing that.
Thank you very much.